Sir Desmond Grell is Castellan of Riverrun while Edmure is off at battle, and he has confined Catelyn to her father's room for releasing the Kingslayer without the consent of King Robb or Edmure. She is aware Grell has dispatched Sir Robin Rygar to bring back Jaime and hopes that he fails. Her father's room smells of death, and it makes Cat think of Ned and her two youngest boys. Lord Hoster is having fever dreams and mumbling. Forgive me, the blood. Oh, please, Tansy, dead. You'll have others, sweet babies, and trueborn. Catelyn recalls that Lysa has had 5 miscarriages since her marriage and deducts that Lysa must have miscarried before marrying as well. She realizes that Jon Arryn had no heir at the time of her and Lysa's twin betrothals. He was older than their father, and as a soiled bride, Lysa was the price Jon Arryn had to pay for the swords of House Tully. She does not know who the father of the original miscarriage might have been. Catelyn writes a letter to Lysa pleading for her to come to Riverrun before their father passes away, saying he needs your forgiveness, but she realizes Lord Hoster will be gone before the Raven even makes it to the Eyrie. Catelyn goes to the Sept and lights 3 candles, one for the father above, for her own father, one for the crone, who lets the first raven into the world when she peered through the door of death, and one for the mother, for Lysa and their children that they had both lost. Later, Edmure returns to Riverrun, informing Catelyn that he had turned away the Lannisters, but that Stannis lost the Battle of King's Landing, and that Highgarden and Dorne have both declared for Joffrey. Edmure scolds Catelyn for freeing Jaime and tells her Cersei will never free Catelyn's daughters, but Catelyn claims Tyrion will be held for the word he spoke in open court, and the Kingslayer gave his word as well. Edmure dismisses the Kingslayer's words as worthless and informs Catelyn that Tyrion took an axe to the head and is most likely dead. Edmure has sent 3 ravens informing Lord Bolton that Jaime has escaped in the hopes of capturing him at Harrenhal. Catelyn despairs because if Jaime is believed to have escaped, instead of being released as part of a prisoner swap, the Lannisters have no reason to free her daughters.
Yeah, so in short, Catelyn messed up. You know, she gets on Edmure at the end of this.
Did she?
She gets on him at the end of this saying, like, you know, I mean, he's done the wrong thing, or now they're never like it's almost like I don't know, the hate on Edmure, or like calling him stupid or that he's not smart or whatever. It's like, come on now, hold on a second. You gave up the Kingslayer, you know? Like, and she's yelling and scolding, you know, she's upset with her brother because she thinks like, well, this does is no good. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I get that now that what's done is done, she's trying to say like, okay, this should be kind of kept secret or whatever. But hold on, get me mad at this guy for saying, you know, I want to try to get him back and trying to do what he thinks in the moment is the best thing to do to get Jaime back. Like Rob's going to come back here and be like, where's my prize chess piece, my prisoner? And
Yeah.
it's just kind of.
I mean, I guess the question is, do you think well, the way she went about it, I think is wrong. Not a good idea. This sort of like secret behind the scenes, going to release him, trusting that Jaime will do the right thing. And of course that doing it without Rob's approval. But I do think the move of the prisoner swap is ultimately a good idea.
Yeah, had they orchestrated it all together and worked and said, yeah, this is what we wanted. This is what we want to do. Right. As a group, like have everybody have their opinions put in there, talk to the phrase about it.
Right.
I mean, really.
Yeah. Especially because, well, you have the phrase have something about, because I would say right now, if people think that Tyrion is going to die, if you have Jaime Lannister, you now have the heir of like House Lannister, because you know Joffrey's a Baratheon, so you have some serious leverage on House Lannister to say, okay, here's what we want. You can have Jaime back. We want Arya and Sansa, because they don't know that Arya's gone. Like not everyone knows Arya's gone, right? You have Jaime back. We want Arya and Sansa, and we want Northern independence, and here you go.
Yeah, that's a pretty big piece to play. I mean, and the thing is that like to get his son back, I think Tywin. You also know how difficult it is to invade the North and to get past Moat Cailin. You understand the phrase are their allies right now, and everything is good. So like two big mistakes happen here, which is what Rob does in his marriage, and kind of sliding the phrase. And then you have what Catelyn does. So they all the victory and the war that's going on, their control of the Riverlands and everything, even the harrying of Casterly Rock, it's all kind of undone in these two moves
Right.
by their two top figures. It's just like, wow. And then I guess what I think is that people think what Catelyn did here was like a smart move, but how would it? Let's say this works out and Brienne gets down there and there is an exchange, right? They get Jaime Lannister back, and then Sansa and Arya come back to Catelyn, right? And the swap is made. At that point, isn't it still just warfare? Aren't we still just war? Or is there like, does she think at that point there will be a peaceful exchange of prisoners, and then we're gonna just call this thing a stalemate, or all is gonna be
You could. I think that's an option, but I would say even if the war was going to continue, I would say that even if so let's say you didn't get Northern independence, like that's one of the things you went for. I think you're still at a better, even though you're giving them, one of the best swordsmen and a battle commander, getting, in theory, this is because we know Arya's gone, but getting in Sansa and Arya back is a way more valuable piece right now during this whole war than having Jaime, because you've taken a battle commander off the field, but you've already beaten him, and Rob is kind of like winning a lot of battles. You've now just gained two assets to marry off. That's, not the best way to look at it, but that's Song of Ice and Fire, the way things work, right?
Right.
You can marry Sansa and Arya off, and you've now just gained two more allies.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because you could say, all right, we're going to marry Sansa to, say, Sweet Robin, right? I mean, that's, okay, now, like, that's going to force the Vale into the war because they're not in it yet.
Yeah.
Or we're going to marry Arya off to whoever. I don't know.
Yeah, someone.
Maybe you go to, maybe you, even if it's like, I don't know, a Tarly or something, somebody from a smaller house in a different region, then you can split them up and
go down to Dorne and go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arya wouldn't have liked that, but yeah, I get it. Yeah, there's a chance to kind of make those alliances for sure.
So I would say that getting the girls back, even without like declaring independence, because the problem right now too is that the phrase, I mean, it's sort of over now, but the Greyjoys invaded,
right?
Yeah,
the North. I know. Yeah, and so that's part of the problem, I guess. Like, and again, Catelyn doesn't know all the pieces. That's the whole point with this. Is real realistic in terms of like, she doesn't know Rob's making the mistake that he's making. Because that's another piece, right? When the phrase switch over and Roose Bolton and they start to make their packs and stuff like that. Once Jaime's out and kind of on the loose, and again, there's still rumors of him, being freed from the young wolf or whatever. It's like now they're more aggressive in their pursuit or in their takedown of Rob and Catelyn. So would they have been less aggressive in that if they knew that they had Jaime? If instead of Catelyn holding like a throat to or a knife to the throat of Jingle Bell, right? If it's Jaime Lannister or somebody, if somebody there's like holding a knife to him, it's a little bit different. That would, you would just upset. Like the phrase wouldn't have done it as much. It would have been different. It just would have been different. It's a piece you could have kept until you were sure you knew what you wanted to do with it. But it's just such a wild gamble by her. It's such a wild gamble, and and all of them, all of these military leaders, they see it as, again, you're trusting the Kingslayer and his word on this, and bringing back like her. Who's to say he wouldn't just go betray her, and he's sworn. You know what I mean? It's just like
Wow.
he doesn't
Because
have a reputable kind of past or whatever. Like he's not someone that we look at and we say, oh yeah, he's a respectable man. He honors his word all the time. Even though we know more about him now as readers, it's like at that time, the things he does for love. You know, if it helps put his family in a better position, look what he does for Cersei. Push a young boy out the window. He doesn't care. So it's like he'll start to kind of turn, and it really would have been Tyrion who I think would have been most helpful in that situation back in King's Landing, but you know, it's such a gamble because there's no like meeting under a white flag, and they've brought, you know, the daughters. You don't even know if they're alive. That's the other pieces that we know Arya's not there. We know it's only a swap for Sansa. And so again, it's like, yeah, you get why Catelyn does it. You understand that she's just desperate, really desperate, and was worried that her daughters were going to be killed. It's a mother's love, the things that she does for love and for family, right? That's always the
yeah.
thing with her is what she does for family. But yeah, just
I
unfortunate.
mean,
I just, you know, yeah.
I know it's unfortunate because we ultimately know that it causes them to their downfall. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's out of sheer. She does this out of sort of sheer desperation, and that's a lot of things. She's a little hot headed sometimes in her decision, like to capture Tyrion, and then of course to release Jamie. Now, I wouldn't say that it's the whole downfall of them, because even by releasing Jamie, you still could win the war and do all sorts of things. And it's not like Rob hasn't made bad decisions too, letting Theon go,
Right.
which really comes to but hurt him.
Yeah, it does. Let me read for you guys the part that I think I'm going to talk about here with Edmure. So he shows back up. Catelyn says, "You look unwell. Has something happened?" And so I'm just kind of jumping in. We can go back to the Tansy stuff later here in a second, but he kind of says, "I threw them back. Lord Tywin, Clegane, Marbrand, all of them threw them back." Let's see. Stannis, though, he grimaces. Stannis, what Stannis? He lost the Battle of King's Landing. His fleet was burned, his army routed. A Lannister victory was ill tidings, but Catelyn could not share her brother's obvious dismay. She still had nightmares about the shadow she had seen slice through Renly's tent and the way the blood came flowing through the steel of his breastplate. Stannis was no more a friend than Lord Tywin. You do not understand. Highgarden has declared for Joffrey, Dorne as well, all the South. His mouth tightened. And you see fit to loose the Kingslayer. You had no right. So let me tell you straight up, he's got a point there, right? So this was we just gave up one of our biggest pieces. The Lannisters won. King's Landing is defended. Stannis is defeated and in retreat. Dorne has joined, right? And Highgarden has joined. The entire South now is united against us, and Jaime Lannister, Catelyn, has sent Jaime Lannister away. Because let me go on here a little bit. Because she gets, let me see here. I had a mother's right, she said, right? No right. He was Rob's captive, your king's captive, etc. Bran will keep him safe. She swore it on her sword. That woman, she will deliver Jaime to King's Landing and bring Arya and Sansa back to us. Cersei will never give them up. Not Cersei, Tyrion. He swore it in open court, and the Kingslayer swore it as well. Jaime's word is worthless. As for the imp, he said, it is said that he took an axe in the head during the battle. He'll be dead before Brienne reaches King's Landing, if she ever does. Dead? Could the gods truly be so merciless? Right? And right there, it's like, oh shoot, it's falling apart on you. You know, like what if Jaime just dies along the way? Like what? And not even if he gets back. What if he's just accidentally killed and Tyrion's killed? You know what I mean? Well, then you just gave up your chess pieces totally to the wind. You know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Edmure was blind to her disaster. Jaime was my charge, and I mean to keep him safe. I've sent ravens. So here we go. Ravens to whom? How many? 3. So the message will be certain to reach Lord Bolton by river or by road. The way from Riverrun to King's Landing must needs take them close to Harrenhal. Harrenhal, the very words seemed to darken the room. Edmure, you know what you have done. Have no fear. I left your part out. I wrote that Jaime had escaped and offered 1,000 dragons for his recapture. Worse and worse, she thought in my despair. My brother is a fool. Um, If this was an escape, she said softly, not an exchange of hostages, why should the Lannisters give my daughters to Brienne? It will never come to that. The Kingslayer will be returned to us. I have made certain of it. Now, hold on a second, Catelyn. I thought you said that Tyrion and Jaime were going to keep up their word, and that's what this all hinges upon, is their word, right? I get what she's kind of saying is that, like, well, now Riverrun has officially said that he escaped, and that they can use, well, no, he just escaped. This whole other piece is just sort of, Catelyn is just making this up. But again, that's what they could say anyways, Matt. Jaime
Right.
could just say he escaped. I mean,
Yes.
he could kill Brienne at some point. She could be taken in, killed, silenced, whatever they want to do. Like, that's exactly, all of those things are risks that she took when she did this. And all of that made certain. Let's see. Oh yeah, whenever come to that, Kingslayer will return to us. I have made certain of it. All you have made certain is that I shall never see my daughters again. No, do not put that on Edmure. I don't think that's fair. I don't think
Yeah.
it's fair, Matt. I think that's on you. I think that's on you. Like, again, she's banking on Tyrion, who Lysa had in court and she wrongly accused and imprisoned, right? And he had to do a trial by combat to get out of. And then Jaime is not really a well-known, like, a character who we believe to be trustworthy or adhering to his vows necessarily. It's just like, it's just bizarre then to lash out. And I get it. She's angry and she's upset because now she thinks his ravens will be the undoing of all of her work. No, that is not true. Sorry.
No, you're 100% right. And remember, the show makes Edmure seem like Edmure is in the show he's just like comedic relief, which there's not
Right.
very much of in the show, but Edmure is way more intelligent in the books than he is in the show. He's one of the characters that the show does sort of dirty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you need comedic relief in that show because
Yeah. For sure.
there's like none. Yeah.
Well, and he's a character who they in the book, it's hinted at here, right? It's that he makes some blunders, he owes some stuff to Robb. I mean, he makes several mistakes just in terms of, like, pushing Tywin back to where Robb was actually secretly attacking, and then sending the Ravens out to get Jaime Lannister or whatever. It's like, I mean, from his point of view, Matt, all he wants is the return of Jaime Lannister. What's the best way to ensure that? Well, it's to contact your allies out in the field by Raven and bring him back. So as a military strategy, like commander, he doesn't care. I mean, actually, it's the mistake he made, I guess, is to say, like, right, that he was an escapee or whatever. I don't think it really matters though. But, like, he could have said, yeah, Catelyn, let him go. Whatever you want to say there. If that, like, makes the story better, it doesn't matter. He wants to get him back. They're not about forwarding this plot of yours. I think she thinks it's gone to a point of no return, right? Okay, we got past Sir Robin Ryger was tailing him down, and then boom, we're good. But Brienne gets past that obstacle. Now Edmure has put up another one, and she's just upset about it. So don't call you. I mean, characterize him as a fool.
Yeah, and her decision to make her decision to make this, she makes it at really an inopportune time. I mean, to be honest, it's like, we're winning. Why would you?
Right.
It'd be one thing if you were losing. I mean, yeah, Winterfell's like been under siege and whatever, but I guess I don't know. It's like, why right now?
It was the worst time because, like, actually, had she just waited a little bit, and again, maybe there's no right time to figure all this out, but, like, you see at the time she releases him, there's an attack on King's Landing. We don't know the outcome of that yet. We don't know if your daughters are going to be killed or what's going to happen, and we don't know any of that stuff. And you just free the Kingslayer, like, that's kind of, again, I just want to point it out because we often take what Catelyn says when we say, oh, yep, her brother's he's a fool, right? Or Lysa's this, or this person's that. And it's like, hold on a second.
You would have,
you
would have been better off. You would have been better off saying, hey, like, because that you were there when Stannis kills Renly. I mean, when Stannis kills Renly, Stannis is going to go attack King's Landing. You would have been better off saying, if you don't release my daughters right now, I'm going to kill Jaime Lannister. Then you pull forces from King's Landing.
Yeah. actually did just make that threat and be willing to, I think like Cersei and them would be like, well, it's a bluff or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a bluff that
You
might
have to
bring them
answer.
that might bring them to the table, right?
Because
That
the
bluff,
whole reason,
yeah,
because I mean, yeah, the whole reason that Stannis loses is because Tywin goes down.
yeah,
If you
right.
tell Tywin Lannister we are going to kill him, you have until X day to get here. Tywin Lannister would have gone
That's
to
right.
get Jaime, but
Yep.
I think before he would have gone to King's Landing.
Yeah, yeah. You could have disrupted a lot of their plans. You could have issued some ultimatum for this to work, and that's what she should have been pushing for and advocating for. And I know she was to some degree, and she felt like there was no other way other than to trust. I mean, it is bonkers to me that she trusts a Lannister, right, who
Right.
actually shoved her son out the window. We don't know this for sure, but like Lysa writes her a letter saying it's the Lannisters, even though Lysa was actually the one, she and Littlefinger stirring up the whole pot there to get Ned
Right.
down there. But still, there's all these warning signs that it's not good. Her husband was killed. it was killed by the Lannisters.
I know.
And she's going to trust them to get her daughters back and not trust her son and the other commanders and her brother, and she's lost it. I'm sorry. She has good
Right.
moments. She has high moments. I like the character. Lady
She's
Stoneheart
the
is
one. She's the
vengeful.
one that starts the whole thing. I mean, she is the one who starts the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really. I mean, like Ned would have gone down and he would have figured stuff out, but I don't know that a war would have broke out over it. I think he just would have went down, figured it out, and what. I mean, it's when she captures Tyrion, the whole thing kicks off. I mean, that is the first like okay
Yeah.
thing that sends it all off.
Right. Right. And she gets it wrong there, doesn't she? You know?
Yeah.
She takes the wrong person. So like she makes mistakes. And see, this is the cleverness of George's writing, is that like we forget some of those things because she'll have a moment where she gives good counsel. She has wise words. She goes down and speaks reason to Stannis and Renly, which is cool. But at the same time, none of our characters in the story are perfect. They're all human and they make mistakes along the way and stuff. I think we just look over some of hers and we say, yeah, I get it. I understand what. And like, no, I want to point out this is a big deal. Edmure is right in this situation. And I think even to send the Ravens, I think he's right to say, no, we want to try everything we can to get him back. That's a huge, huge deal. So
Yeah.
it's I mean, Rob has to like behead one of his
Stark.
yeah, and it's just like what the heck? Like because they're so pissed because okay, what about their sons that were killed by Jaime? What about they wanted vengeance. They wanted these different, they don't get their children back, you know? So wild. Okay, now we can switch gears now if we wanted to. I just had to go off on the
That's fine.
Edmure
Yeah, I
thing.
mean this chapter itself, by the way, is short. Really.